A warm welcome to a new podcast, a new episode here to the topics leadership, safety and security, and a little bit management as well. Today with a great person, a great interview guest, Brine Hamilton. A warm welcome to you, Brine. Nice to see you here.
Thanks, Tony. It's nice to be on. I appreciate you inviting me.
Absolutely. It's not so easy to get one during this time, this holiday season time, but we get that and we have the time shuttle, and it's a good time window to talk with each other about leadership, about safety, security, a little bit in healthcare as well, but absolutely on you. You are on the stage today. You are my guest, and we are talk about some issues maybe, or some challenges, or some risks. We will see that, and absolutely in a new way from my side, because it's my first podcast in English. So
Okay.
I will see that, how it will handle it as a moderator. But I guess we will start shortly, directly, and going in. Brian, let me say like that, if you are in a barbecue party and you are there with your with your girlfriend or your wife, that's girlfriend as well, and the mother-in-law are waiting there, the future mother-in-law waiting there, or your father-in-law, and you get that near by and sit there, and he or she asks you, hey, Brian, tell me something about you, who you are, where you come from, what are you doing the whole day? Let us hear what you're saying to your mother-in-law or future mother-in-law or future father-in-law.
Okay. Well, I'll say I am married, so it would be my wife and I guess my current mother-in-law. So if she were to ask me, and try and tell her something maybe that she didn't know. So Brine Hamilton, I'm a husband, father of four. Those are, I would say, the most important roles in my life. Outside of that, by the time that individuals get a chance to listen to this, I will be the president of the International Association for Healthcare Security and Safety, or IAHSS for short.
That's so hard to say. Sorry for that. I H IAHSS. If
You
you're
got
an
it.
American guy or a Canadian guy, it's okay, it's easy. But all this, it's terrible for me to say that. So, my tongue goes over and over and rumbled. IAHSS. It's right.
That's correct. Yeah. And you know what? You're not the only one. I think a lot of us here locally have trouble with it as well. So people will definitely stumble through it. I always have to say it slow and like listen in my head, because sometimes I feel like I don't say the A even though I have. People just say IHOS, which isn't, it's not putting the letters in the right order. But yeah, IAHSS. So yeah, I'd say
Who was this marketing guy? But I sorry I interrupt you. Just go ahead. But you are now the president for this year for this absolutely famous International Association of Healthcare Safety and Security. And that's a good thing, a good organization. I have to say that because I was a fellow member as well, or it's just like in this organization a few years ago before I left the healthcare security environment. And but what's going on more? What are you around outside of this position?
yeah. So outside that position, again, father and husband, coach a lot of my kids' sports when we have sports going on. A big basketball fan, so you can see me wearing my Toronto Raptors hoodie today. Toronto Raptors fan, Carolina Panthers fan, enjoy baseball as well. I'm a Toronto Blue Jays fan. Aside from that, I guess my professional career, I've spent 15 years I spent 15 years in the security industry. A little bit more than a year ago, I joined Omnigo Software. So not working in a healthcare facility anymore, but still serving those groups. So I really focus on, we're a company that makes security management software, and our main focus is incident reporting software. So I used it both as a frontline officer and in some management roles I was in. So I get to share it with people today. Other than that, I do podcasting as well. So, you joined me on the Healthcare Security Cast in the past, which is,
Yeah.
again, focused on healthcare security. I also co-host the Proactive Security podcast with Mike Hodges, where we focus on workplace violence in healthcare. And also the third one is one that I actually host with my wife. It's called Disrupt the Everyday. And we just talk about everyday life and really, it's kind of in the name, how to disrupt that, but just kind of avoid getting out of that status quo and really trying to make the most of life.
Awesome, awesome. I told him before, for all us audience here or people they are looking at on YouTube or just listen podcast, this guy has really time. This guy has so much time. No, he hasn't time, but he do it in the right way and he do it efficiency. And so like that. And that's a good thing. And we know that. Listen and showing up, what are you doing, and listen to people, talking to people in an interview, in a podcast, in maybe as well in a TV session, something like that. It's the future, and it's so easy today to reach people out there around the globe, to get in contact, to get in touch with them, and to talk and discuss other topics they are interested in. If you are love to do that, and it's really a good time for us. A few years before, nobody had the chance without a lot of money to spend a lot of money for that, and so it's a little kind of disruption. But it's always the good thing to talk about that, and we know who you are, and you are a professional security expert. I would say that like that in healthcare environment and software, digitalization in software parts for the healthcare environment is so important, but as well for other security companies or private or public sector. But how do you start in there? It's just like you just jumped out on the kindergarten and say, yes, I'm here. I'm I'm the hero of my own life. Now I'm a security officer and I'm here to protect you. No, just kidding. Where you come from, what's your last position in school, and what did you do? Your study or an apprenticeship, or what's going on in the last decade or 2 decades before you started in the security professional?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I would start off by saying, I was supposed to be in the NBA, but that didn't work out because, well, frankly, I wasn't good enough. So instead of pursuing basketball, I decided to work on a trade. So I actually took a program at Durham College. It was a network cabling specialist program. And then I started working in that field. So again, it's funny because it relates a little bit to some of the things that I've done since in security. But again, just doing the wiring and things like that for networks, whether they were voice or data networks. So that was kind of where I got my start. I did some electrical work in there as well, and figured that was where I was going to be. It was a trade that never ended up being regulated, so it wasn't. I didn't necessarily see a long-term career in it, and then I had to kind of reset and figure out what I was going to do. So I thought maybe law enforcement was something I had an interest in, so I actually started doing security. My first position was doing security at a mall. It was a mall that was located in an area that was kind of a high crime area. So I did get a lot of really good experience working there. I
The
ended up
day or
getting
during the night?
during the
Night
day.
shift or day shift?
No, it was day shift. So it was prime time.
Okay.
But went from there. I was able to get a supervisor position with the security company I was working for. And then from there, I had an opportunity to work in healthcare. A gentleman who was working a shift at the site that I was the supervisor at, he was on his day off. He was just working to get some extra money. And I had just given my 2 weeks notice. I was going to get started again in the network cabling field. I was trying to get back into it after 2 years. And then he had mentioned to me that, there's this hospital position that actually, paid really well. He's like, if you're interested, let me know. And of course, it was the one day where I didn't have a resume on hand. So he's like, okay, well, you know what, if you apply, it's fine. Just use my name. So I ended up calling the hospital because the posting had come down off of the internet. So I had actually called the security department and asked what the fax number was. So this is, again, dating myself a little bit. Everybody was still using fax machines.
Fax for a new generation. Explain what's fax.
So fax is like,
what's the hell? What's fax? Nobody knows that. After my kids don't know exactly what's a fax. Okay.
they're still used a lot in healthcare. Surprisingly enough. But yeah, basically a fax is essentially a big, it looks like a big phone basically, and not like a cell phone, like one that you actually pick up and press the buttons. It's like that. You could feed paper into it and it will copy that and send it to someone else. Basically, we kind of replaced that with email for the most part. But I faxed my resume in, and I ended up getting an interview, which is fortunate because if I had applied through HR, I would have got filtered out because I didn't have enough experience. It required 5 years experience. I had 2 at the time, but
Okay.
did well in the interview, which surprisingly enough, actually, it's funny that we're kind of going down this path because the day before I had my interview, I was playing basketball and I was going for a loose ball and got someone's shoulder in my left eye.
Oh.
So yeah, and my eye just swelled up. Like I couldn't see out of it at all. And so I had this black eye and I had an interview the next day. It was, yeah. So I was I was really worried about how that was going to go. So I started driving there and I was like, okay, I can barely see. So I actually went to my workplace. I had taken the day off, parked, and taken transit the rest of the way to get to the hospital and do my interview. But I guess the interview went well because I did end up getting hired. But the first thing I said when I came in, I was like, listen, I'm not a troublesome person.
The room is over there.
Yeah. Like I had my suit on, everything looked really good, except I just had this black eye. And I was like, I walk in right away and I'm like, before we even start, this happened playing basketball last night. I'm not a troublesome person. And the 2 of them just started laughing. And luckily they were basketball fans too. So I'm sure that didn't hurt. But started working there, worked there within a couple of years. I had gotten to a shift supervisor position. And then again, I kind of got the itch to do something different because I had my first child at this point. 6 weeks after I started this job, I got married. I had my first child, and then I was like, okay, you know what? I don't want to work the night shift anymore because I was one of the, we called it the charge officer position. I was the newest, so I had the least seniority. So out of the 8 of us, I knew I was going to be working night shift for a while. So I got to thinking, I'm like, okay, do I maybe pursue this electrical thing again? So I actually, again, when I was working night shift, there was a stretch there where I worked every weekend. I did shift exchanges so I could go to school during the day, and started doing electrical. And I kept my job at the hospital. I worked part-time, but I started doing this electrical work during the week. Now that career didn't work out. And at this point, my wife was also pregnant. I had gotten laid off from that job, I think a month before we were having our twins. So, three kids. And yeah, so I luckily there was a position that had opened up on the day shift. So I started working the day shift at the hospital. And, it was a huge, it's kind of cliche, but like the difference was night and day. And it was literally night and day. Working the day shift was so much different than working the night shift. I had exposure to the management team. There was just different things that happened during the day. So I really kind of recaptured my love for that environment. And I decided, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to, whatever it takes for me, I'm just going to work really hard, get into management in this, I was specifically focused on that organization that I was working with. But, I want to get into healthcare security management. And basically I talked to my director at the time and was like, hey, this is what I want to do. And he was super helpful. So started from there. One of the first things that I did was get involved with IAHSS. I started attending local chapter meetings, and that led to so many other opportunities. So I've had the chance to work with both in-house, outsourced security teams. There was one position where I was a contracted leader that was reporting to an in-house manager and managing a team that was a mix of in-house and contract. So I had a lot of interesting experience in that sense, but and that led to me joining Omnigo, which is where I am now. And again, really enjoying what I'm doing now, even though it's a little bit different than what I've done in the past.
Whoa. That's absolutely so much content in there that you're talking about. So much that we could take out and figure out what's going on in this period, what's going on in this time window, what's going on in these few months. And you are a father of 3 kids?
4.
Four kids. Wow.
Yep.
I'm just 2. I have just 2. That's enough. For me, that's enough. But there are some people they are able to grow up with more than 2 kids, and you are one. So absolutely great for you and your wife to have a family and all are healthy and growing up well and in a good environment, and have a dad they're working hard for success of the young kids there. And you told that, and let me figure out that together. can I say that this one or two things that you make you successful is this time of a lot of stress, a lot of engagement to decide what's the priority of my life, my family life and my professional life, and to handle that switch from night to day shift, and from a mall to a busy environment, from birth to death. You have all in the healthcare facility and environment. It's that one or two points in there that makes you successful where you are today. It's that right? Can we say that, like, or just let us know? Let us know what you guess. What are the two most important characteristic points or strengths of you that makes you able to be here, allowed you to be here?
Yeah, I would say number one is just hard work and the willingness to show up and be committed to whatever you're doing when you're doing it. I would say that's number one. Number two, I think, is just being willing to learn and try new things. Because again, in that healthcare environment, coming from where I was coming from, you get exposed to new things every day. And if you're actually willing to learn, there's a lot that you can pick up. Again, I learned so much just working in that environment. And when I went through my career path, it wasn't linear. And what I gave you was I left out a lot. Like I teach as well part-time. So I left out the teaching, I left out some of the other part-time jobs I had, but they all played a role in me being where I am today, developing the skills that I have today, and just being able to have the experiences that I have today. But no, just I think showing up, again, super important, because not enough people do that. Putting in that extra time and just being willing to learn, no matter who it is, because I think we can. I think it's Ralph Waldo Emerson who said, "My everyone is my superior in something." So
Yep.
you can learn something from any person if you're willing to just take the time.
And if you are nothing there, you're just patient. Be patient, and to show what he will tell you. If he tell you nothing, or just a few, and you get a few, like that's it's hard. But these 2 points, they are really, really nice too. These are golden nuggets to show up and the commitment to do that and learn new things. Uh, what do you guess? It's lucky to be lucky or to get luck in a lucky environment, or just this situation you haven't under control. Is there something there that you are looking past, review in your life, that you say, okay, that's not my work or not my engagement, or it's nothing that I did, but I get in this situation, the right time, the right place, the right person, and he or she supports me. Did you
Yeah,
have that in the
there,
last?
man, there's a lot of moments like that. And I think it's a combination of both, having luck, but being willing to do things, because you have to put yourself in a position to be able to be a benefactor of those circumstances. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll go back to that interview where I had the black eye. I almost didn't go because I was thinking right away, these guys aren't going to hire me. I look like I've just been in a fight, right? And I'm
Against
coming and
Mike
applying for
Tyson
a
or something
security
like
job.
that. You
Yeah.
are
Oh
in.
man, it was bad. It was really bad. But but I went for the interview. I just assumed I wasn't going to get the job, and it's funny because the person who interviewed me, his name's Carl Valentine. He's still a manager there, but
Okay.
he told me, I had my interview, I think it was on a Tuesday, and he said, if we don't call you by Friday at 4 p.m., that means we've went in another direction. So I remember my wife, who was my fiance at the time, and we were both working multiple jobs because we had an upcoming wedding. She called me and she's like, "Hey, did you get the job?" And I said, "You know what? I don't think I did. It's almost 4 o'clock now, so you know, I'm sure the black guy had something to do with it." And she's like, "Oh well, something good is going to happen, because
Yep.
again, you always put in that effort." And I hung up, and then right after I hung up, it was 3:58. Carl had called, right? So yeah, and I think that was something he used to like to do, is tell people, if I haven't called you by 4 p.m. on Friday, and he would always call close to 4 p.m. right? So
Okay.
before he finished his day. But yeah, so there was that one time. um I guess actually getting into teaching, because I mentioned that I've been able to I teach at 2 colleges. I've taught at 3 altogether. But the first opportunity came just because, again, I was willing to show up. I was at an event, and I actually, at this event, I had actually volunteered, and I was making phone calls. I was still really early in my career, but making phone calls to try and get interest in this event, made connection with a lot of college professors, or a lot program coordinators at different colleges. And one in particular, she's since passed away, but she had a profound impact on, me getting into that field. Nancy Newton. She is a program coordinator at Fleming College. Now, again, with my involvement in that event, I was asked to be part of the planning committee for the next event. Being someone who comes from out of town, both of us were coming from out of town. We were both there early. We started talking, and then, of course, IAHSS got mentioned. Now, someone you may be familiar with, Tony, Martin Green. He had done some work with Fleming College, and we had actually brought our IAHSS training into part of the college curriculum, and they needed somebody to teach this course. So there was a natural fit right there. So I was like, okay, right place, right time. And she said, if you know anybody, because it was far from me, and I was like, I would love to take the opportunity. And she's like, you'd be willing to make that drive? I was like, of course. So that's where I got started. From there, because I was teaching at that college, I had an opportunity at another college, and then subsequently another college. So, it wasn't even something that was ever on my, it was never a thought for me to actually teach at a college level. But, I've been able to do it at 3 separate colleges now. So, and again, I could give a ton of examples of things that if I just didn't have, if I had not shown up to an event, maybe I don't meet this person and it doesn't lead to that opportunity. But I think that's how a lot of it's happened, is just putting yourself out there. And like I said, showing up.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's so important to get connections with other people, and as well these people who decide. You have to decide something, not only the base. It's better to get in middle or in a higher level of management, and to show up in events or. But what do you guess? During this periods or last 2 years, there are more and more online events or hybrid events, often online to face to face in a local or area with a few person, and as well online. But what do you guess? It's harder to get that show up in connection, or it's easier today to show up and to show, hey, listen, I'm here. I can doing something for you. I'm a specialist in safety topics, or in fire protection, or in electronic way, in technical way, like access control, or I'm a specialist in close protection or something like that. What do you guess? It's easier for a new or younger person in a safety, security, doesn't matter which environment, to show up, or it's harder to do it because it's so, online events are so huge. They are allowed to be online around the world. So it should just go under the wave and nobody will see you. What do you guess?
I would say, in my opinion anyways, that it's easier, just because, well, again, a few years ago, people were not as comfortable like jumping on a meeting like this. Zoom. Zoom is a company, and we're on the Zoom platform right now. But this wasn't a term that people knew before, and now people are just like, oh yeah, jump on a Zoom call with me, even if they're using like Ring Central or GoToMeeting or Teams. They call it a Zoom. Like jump on a Zoom with me. We'll have a quick chat. So people are so much more comfortable than they were a couple of years ago. I know when we had IAHSS events before, we would do we do these shared interest groups, and we'd have to encourage people to put their cameras on. People hated to put the cameras on at that time. Now it's a really natural thing for people because we're just so used to meeting on these platforms. But it really opens up the world. Like, we're having this conversation today, which we wouldn't be able to do in person. They would involve a long flight, right? For us to be, I think, traveling across like 8 time zones in order to be able to have a conversation. But now, again, like we're connecting. I'm on vacation, so I don't have anything else planned today, but we could be ending this call and I could be jumping on a call with colleagues from Kenya or Ireland. And these are just some of the places I've been able to, have some reach and be able to connect with people from there. But Ireland, Australia, Argentina, Colombia. Like these are places where normally it would be really challenging if we weren't so comfortable with this digital environment. But kind of to your point, to talk about those events, I think, yeah, it is easy to get lost in those events. You can have some really big events, but it's all about being intentional. And my intention was never to use industry associations, I guess, to grow my career. I wasn't looking for my next job, I'll say. I was just wanting to learn. And that was the approach that I took. I wanted to learn. I wanted to meet other people who knew things I didn't know, see how I could be of benefit to them. I was encouraged to volunteer. So I started volunteering at
Learn
a
and
local
serve.
level.
So like
Yeah,
this. Huh?
exactly. Yeah. And then that's where the opportunities come from. It's the ones that you're not looking for. Like if I think about what I'm doing now, this was not something that, again, this was something that was never on my career trajectory. I wasn't thinking of working for a software company by any means. If you would have told me that 5 years ago, I would have laughed, because just the idea of that wouldn't have computed for me. But again, it's just taking advantage of those opportunities. But I think being able to do things digital makes it easier. When you actually do get to meet in person, when we had in November, we had the IAHSS ACNE, our annual conference and exhibition. So many
Okay.
people, I think the most overused line, and I wrote a post about this, was, "It's nice to meet you in person," because I had met so many people there. We spoke online, we were in meetings together, we were talking on LinkedIn through the messaging, but I hadn't met them in person. And a lot of these people I've gotten to know pretty well without ever meeting them, which was kind of weird, because it's not the way things have happened in the past, right? So I think, yeah, there's a little bit that you lose. I think the most common comment I got from people is, "You're a lot taller than I thought you were." So because
Hi, Brine.
yeah, there was a lot of that, like, "Wow, you're really tall. You didn't look this tall on Zoom," right? So
No, that's absolutely great. It's good to hear that face to face or physical meetings are to like know people and get in touch and shakes hands and drink some coffee together and have this time together. It's more connected. It's more empathy that's just over distance and in front of a monitor, computer, something like that, and your webcam. But okay, for all people that are listening today and for our audience, there are 2 points in there: show up, commitments, learning something, and then the connections for your personal growth, professional growth as well, but as well to get or enrich your personal environment. And I guess it's absolutely important. You need to build your network before you need it.
yeah,
And the earlier stage, you just listen, observe, learn, serve, and then maybe you get the right person at the right moment for teaching at a college. Something
right.
like that, like Brine as a role model. It's like he can do all things. He can teach, he can protect people, he can fix your digital problems at your healthcare facility environment. Brine, you are the best. I will say that like that. No, let me say, if we have the problem or we have the situation, and let's change the point of view a little bit to go in
Sure.
a professional way. Uh, you as a manager, as a person with experience in leading people and manage organizations, and as well in a digital environment, what do you guess should board of directors, or the directors of the board, the managers in a top level, where they should look for the next few years, or maybe next year or next 2 3 years? What's important to get more focused on, to get more engagement in a topic? To what's the biggest challenge for them? What do you guess, on your opinion and your environment and your situation that you can you reflect in
I,
oversee there in Canada? Have you say that before? Canada, Ontario, it's your home region. Can you say that?
Yeah. So I actually, I'm not home today. Again, I'm on vacation, but I live in Brantford, Ontario, which is, it's west of Toronto. Most people will know Toronto. Brantford, Ontario is kind of known for Wayne Gretzky. That was where Wayne Gretzky grew up, the great hockey player, and Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the person who's credited with inventing the telephone.
As well, absolutely an international podcast today. We have the chance to get the new golden nuggets from Brine. What's the management should do, should observe, should focus on. What do you guess the next year or 2, 3 years? What's the biggest challenge for them?
Well, I think management itself is enough of a challenge because the one thing that I'll say a lot of us went through is we got promoted into management roles because we were good at our job as an individual contributor, but didn't necessarily learn how to be a manager. And those skills don't always translate well. But as a manager, you're responsible for results and retention. So making sure that you're hitting your business objectives and making sure that you're retaining quality people and that you have, for lack of a better term, kind of use a sports analogy, but you have a bench. So you have people who are ready to step up when, someone who you've developed now has the skills and they go off somewhere else. You need to have somebody kind of in the fold. But in terms of the challenges, I think it's really keeping up with the ever-changing environment. And you kind of spoke to this when you mentioned the digital environment that we're in. Like, this was something that we had to adapt to, especially if you're managing a team. All of a sudden, instead of seeing people in person every day at the office, which was, when the pandemic started, that was kind of my experience. I had, a few people who reported to me, and we met in an office. We saw each other, on a pretty much daily basis, unless I was on the road for work-related things. But then all of a sudden, everything is online. Everything's shifting online. So you're not actually seeing these people in person, but you're having to adapt to that change and understand how to still manage and still reach your objectives, but do it in a different way. So, and we have these things happening all the time. Things are always changing. So if I would say it's just being able to manage those changes. There's not really one specific thing I could say, but I would say now it's easier for us to do things on an international standpoint. And if I'm thinking in terms of IAHSS specifically, the big area of focus for me is that international growth, because we've had so much international engagement, more than I can remember in the time that I've been involved with the association. So I think that's going to be the biggest challenge, is managing all of that. Again, working with different time zones and trying to find ways to make sure that everybody's getting value and that our resources are internationally focused enough, because that's the one complaint that comes with a part of these industry associations, is a lot of it is American centric. Now, even as a Canadian, that was something that we used to say, is it's very American centric. Right?
If you are any association in the US or in Canada, in North America, if you have any association, they are in front of the word of association, international. But international means, in US and Canada style, from the west to east coast, from north to south border, and not globally. So that's one thing that I'm really was a little surprised about that. Or you are an international association, so, okay, US. So it's okay around the globe. That's absolutely an important thing. And you told that of different time zones. Can you say, or just let me figure out that with you. A long time before, our parents, grandparents, and generations before, they are fighting for a 5-day week, or just, if it's possible, to work with 1 or 2 jobs, maybe 8, 12 hours a day, if it's possible. And now we have this international digitalization thing and different time zones. Could that be a problem for a leader in a bigger association or in a bigger company to look for half in your team, in the team, to get that, how we should do that? Because in the morning 8 or in night 10 o'clock you have a meeting and you are working in a period of personal physical stabilization, and you have that to handle that around with your team. Just that's broke up 7 days a week, 24 hours. What do you guess? Is that a problem in the future? should leaders take focus on that challenge of that problem as well, and it's a chance as well, but it's as well a problem, I guess.
There's definitely potential for that to be a problem, for sure, 100%. I don't think necessarily it should be, but it could be. I think it requires being intentional about your time, and you kind of alluded to this earlier as well. I'm a big advocate for using that calendar. So for me, it's my Outlook calendar that's built right into my email. I schedule everything in there.
Mm.
And, for me, I schedule family events. So if I have to drop my kids off, like, it's funny, yesterday, it was Wednesday, my son normally goes to youth group, and we're on vacation, but I still get the reminder because I haven't taken it off my calendar that, I'm supposed to drop Josiah off at youth group, right? So just to make sure that you actually have time to focus on those family things, I would recommend really scheduling a lot of that stuff. And I've said this a lot, so if anybody who's maybe listened to me before will, I'll sound like a broken record, but it's important to schedule those family events, because if it's important, it should be on your calendar. It's kind of cliche, and people don't like people. I think a lot of times feel like they're not prioritizing their family if they're scheduling them, but I think it's the opposite. You're making sure that those things are going to happen because they're important. It's like if you had a doctor's appointment, you're probably going to put that in your calendar because it's important, and you don't want to miss it. But it's easy enough for us to be working, especially in this digital age, be working and just not, okay, it's 5 o'clock. I'm not even paying attention to the time. So I just keep working, right? My family, especially if you're working from home, like my family's upstairs. If I'm not keeping track of the time, I'm just working. And then all of a sudden it's bedtime. I haven't seen my kids and I've been home. So there's really no excuse for that. It's just really
self-management, time management, self-management. I guess that's a key skill for for everybody.
For everybody,
For every,
especially if you're a leader.
Responsibility on your small team, or squad leader in the military, or in a civil environment, a team leader. You should be able to manage that, and that will mean the middle management and the higher management should be focused on that education for the employees, the team members, to get that on time, on the right time, to say, okay, how do you organize your day? How you're looking for your family time, and what you're talking about that, or your private time and your professional time and your hobbies. And so you have to learn self-management, time management, for everybody, I guess, not only for team leader, to prepare the base on your employees to get that in a few days, maybe for the next hiring or a promotion, to be a team, group leader, whatever. Absolutely, absolutely. Did you in your last time and today, did you change that? Is that an experience that you learn? Is it a lesson learned from you? Is it, oh, I'm near missed by something that I get trouble with my wife? Hey, you should spend a lot of time with us and not less or more. Or is that a lesson learned, or is that just like it's a normal coming with in working time, working days?
Oh no, I think the best lessons, or the lessons that are most impactful anyways, are the ones that you learn the hard way, right? So my wife and I had to both adjust to this, because we were in a situation where she does a home daycare, so she works from home. But when the pandemic first started, there was no home daycare. I was working, but now I was working from home. Our 4 kids are at home doing school online. So it was an adjustment for her, because is that I'm at home and she needs help with something. So she's coming to get me, like, oh, she's like, you're here, I need your help. Well, no, I'm in a meeting, I can't help you right now. Right. So I'm still working. And then for me, it was, exactly what I said. I didn't have a hard cutoff time. And it was, what I was doing at the time was really busy. We were trying to provide, the company I was working for, we were providing security staff. And again, during the pandemic, there was a huge increase, especially in healthcare. And that was my area. So I was just trying to cover all of these shifts. So I would work sometimes 16-hour days in my basement. And, my wife's like, this can't, you can't do this every day. I know that you're working, but I need you here. Yeah. And it's like, I was thinking, okay, I'm here. So I'm doing my part, I'm contributing in some way, but I was, there were days where, again, it wasn't every day, but there were days where I did work like 16 hours and I
I'm
didn't,
here,
I
I'm
was
not here.
yeah, I was no help to my family. But then there
Yeah,
was the
yeah,
times as well where I'm there and she's like, well, I need your help. But I'm like, well, it's the work day. I'm in the middle of
yeah.
a meeting right now, or I'm doing work. Right. So we had to really adjust to that. And, at the end of the day, if, and I've given this example to other people as well, but if you do a great job and you at home, things are a problem. If your husband or wife comes to you and says, this isn't working, I want a divorce. How important is that job to you at that point? I guess, if you want to even just talk in terms of finances,
Yeah.
whatever you're making at that job, you're only getting half of it now anyways. So you might as well focus on prioritizing your family. That's just my thought. I know everybody has a different viewpoint on that, but I think the family needs to be the number one priority, and you make everything work around that. And in doing that, when there are those times where you have to work late, or if you have to, I do networking events as well, like usually on a monthly basis. So that happens at 7 p.m. my time. But because I've planned that and my family knows, they know that they're important. So when I have to do those things, it's not like I'm brushing them off for work or
Mhm.
whatever, because that's not the precedent that you're setting. So they're more forgiving in those times.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's so how you decided. Okay, let me say on this way really short. I guess the problem or the challenge starts on that point if you are passionate about your profession.
Absolutely.
If you love your job, then the problem starts really hard because did you are a home office and it's not work for you. It's just engagement, commitment. Do it, go forward, and get the next challenge and accept the next challenge and go over and succeed and do it, and you do it well and you do it with passion, and then you're in. That's what's the most people are saying, looking for your flow, and then you're just working like a kid playing on the playground, and you are in the flow and you're timeless.
Oh yeah.
You lost your feeling of the time for day, for night, whatever, and then you lost your connection to the family and you lost your connection to your friends, and that's so important. And I guess that's the really essence of this talk today, for tips and hints for management or leaders. The time zones, the international, the chance to grow, to do, to get connected with other people around the world, and to see the capacity, the potential to do it now, because it's the time age to do that, and we have all the digitalization, we have all an upgrade at home with your computer webcam and micros, and we are ready. So let's do it, and all are enthusiastic about that. And then you maybe lost your connection in the real life, or just get the trouble with your time or your agenda. And then it's what you say, that a different view of everybody, it's individual. Where's your priority? Family, hobby, yourself, whatever. And you have to take care of that. And the leader in a company, and team leader, division leader, whatever, they should accept that not everybody is on the same level and the same point of view, what means how much I should engage with my company and how much I'm able to spend my time at home or mobile and traveling or something like that to get in touch and to get my work done. I guess there are some booby traps on the way, if in the digitalization level of working.
Yeah.
If you are a shift out there on your plant or a facility, it's not the same thing. If you are there, if you are on stage physically, it's not a problem. It's the digitalization, the stage 24 hours, 7 days, 7 days a week. I guess that's the most focus that you should, the management, be able to catch that and to accept not everybody would be in a position or in a new function with digitalization and do the job like that. Absolutely great.
Yeah. And I'll just add one thing to that too. Like I had this conversation with a colleague before because, we were in this environment and they had asked me like, how do you manage not to get so stressed about like what has to be done? And, it gets done, but you're not stressing about it. You're not worried about the fact that, somebody might be angry with you about something or whatever. And like, well, I'm, worst case, I can find another job and they can find another employee. I'm replaceable here, but I'm not replaceable at home. If I pass away today, maybe, they may send something to my wife. They may send her a flower arrangement or a fruit basket or something. But if, and then they're going to post my job, right? And they're going to have somebody else working there within a month, right?
Absolutely.
Now, if that happens, the impact that it would have on my family is much greater. So that's why, I was able to not get stressed out about some of these things because for me, I know what's important for me.
What's important and what's stressed and what doesn't impact, maybe a new keyword for a new point of view. Brine, if we are talking about that and if we are talking about safety and security, doesn't matter healthcare or which environment,
right?
Risk is as well a keyword, and taking risk is something that you have to do as a manager, the leader, and to adapt that in your decisions. Do you did you or do you actually today some different point of views or make you a difference between risk in family or private environment and in a professional environment? Did you in the last month some changes or just like you did it before 10 years and now on the same way? Let us know, how do you decide on the risk management? I will say that.
Okay. Well, I guess, yeah, for sure. So it's actually, it's interesting you bring up this point as well, because it was kind of something I was pondering in my head. But, we've talked about a lot of the things that I've been able to accomplish today, which is great. But there's a number of things that didn't go well for me that I failed at during that same amount of time. And it's because I tried a lot of things, right? So you have to be prepared to fail. You have to know that things aren't always going to work out. I guess you mentioned the last month. So something that we did recently was we purchased an investment property. So we purchased a rental property in another province. It's a bit of a trek for us. I'd have to either fly there or it's a 16-hour drive. But we purchased property there. We have tenants who live there. So, that's a success story. We purchased a property that's making money for us. But the thing that you don't see is there's two other properties that we tried to purchase that didn't work out. And we had money invested in both of these. We paid for home inspections and, we spent money, but we found things that were wrong with the houses. So we didn't buy them. Right. And it was to get to the point where you're making an offer on a property like this. You're looking at a lot of properties, you again, scheduling all these things digitally, working through different time zones and making this work. But, it failed twice. And it was, to even get to that point where it could fail, it was a lot of work. Right. And then we finally had the third one that was successful for us. But again, when I look at my career as well, I tried to get into electrical and it didn't work out. Like I guess I wasn't good enough at the job. They let me go. And I ended up doing something that I actually enjoyed doing, but I just didn't see that there was a future in it. And it's because I just didn't have the right thinking about it. So yeah, man, there's so many things. Yeah, it really just, what, I guess I'll try to be concise here and actually answer your question, because I feel like I got off track.
If you are a thinking guy, just working with your brain and head and go over and over and over and over and let decide your head and or just your stomach, you go and you say, okay, my stomach says no, my head says yes, I decide no. What are you doing? Heart or stomach or goat or just a thinking person and going with your head through walls?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like I tend to make decisions pretty quickly. Like I'm not going to be someone who's like, if I have two options, I'm not going to spend a month typically. I'm not going to spend a month trying to figure out, do I want to do this or do I want to do that? I'm going to pick one and I'm going to go with it. But I think part of it too is being willing to adapt during the process as well. If you realize that you made a decision that maybe wasn't the best one and there's still an opportunity to make adjustments, you make the adjustments. that's just the way that's my personal way that I kind of operate. So I'll make the decision quick, but I'm, if I can see that it's not going to work, I'm going to quickly, if I'm, if I'm driving my car and, I don't know if you've ever seen The Office, the TV show, but there's one episode where he's driving and he misses the turn. He takes his GPS the wrong way and he's about to drive into a lake. And the person who's driving with him is saying, no, you're going the wrong way. I think it meant turn right at the next. He's like, no, but the GPS said, and he just drives into the water, right? I think you have to, you have to be willing to recognize when the decision that you made isn't going to work and you need to make an adjustment.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just remembers me in a situation. I'm looking for a hotel, and just you arrived your destination in a tunnel. I was under the hotel. It was great experience to see that. But I didn't find the entrance, so to get in the reception. Okay, but yes, absolutely. You have to be prepared and take an overview and take risk and decide. And I guess one thing that you have to learn as a good leader is to decide on time.
Yeah,
That's a skill, a capacity, something that you have really to be strong in, to analyze pretty fast, but faster to decide, and then take your responsibility. I have decided, or I decide, and then you are responsible for that, and not everybody around you. So you. And I guess it's one thing in a digitalization as well, and globally, international situation, to get the capacity and to be able to decide on time and don't lose time a lot. So risk, okay, risk as well, and fear. They are something. You are over 40 or under 40?
actually, I just turned 40 last week.
Oh, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Brine, congratulations. Congrats to your absolutely fantastic age.
Thank you.
So that means fear. If you are afraid of something and you got over 40, there are something special that you are missed. Oh, Jesus Christ, I have a few years and then have I to succeed in that or in this, or this was my big picture. Have you something that you are afraid or something like a bit nervous to get that on time if you are over 40?
No, it's funny. The one thing was I didn't know how to swim, and I just, I actually had to I took lessons with my kids because I just figured it, this is a skill I need. So 38 years old when I learned how to swim, right? And it wasn't a fear-based thing. I just never learned how to swim. And when I tried in the past, like people tried to teach me, and for whatever reason, I just couldn't pick it up. So yeah, I had to kind of humble myself and let a 19-year-old girl who had just taught my 4 kids how to swim teach me how to swim.
Great.
So,
That's
yeah,
the point from the first few minutes we're talking about. Be able
actually, yeah.
and allow you to learn. It's never too late to learn and to get to grow in a topic or in a theme or in a field of responsibility as well. Because if you are at a lake and your kids are in there and swimming, and you're the parents, the father looking there, sitting on a sun bathing, and they get some problems in there, then you have to handle it and you have to decide, go in or not, to looking for a boat or something like that. So,
Yeah.
but you're not, how do you say that in volunteering in Baywatch or something like that?
No. I'm not that proficient. I can I can get myself out of the water if I need to.
But you are in shape
again,
as well, I guess. You are tired. You are a big guy, and you should be a good role model for the new series Baywatch series Ontario. Something like that. Okay. Let us turn back to our podcast topics, safety and security, and not talking about swimming and swimsuits and Baywatch, things like that, or David Hasselhoff will up and show up, maybe. I don't know exactly. I don't hope so. Okay. If we are going to the end of this podcast slowly, and we are talking about you are the new president of the IAHSS.
Yes.
And you are a lot of ideas and you have a lot of experience and new experience in the last months to get online and to reach the possibilities of your organization. What's your big picture as a president, and what's your big picture for yourself outside aboard this organization? Can you tell us just two parts of you to get that what's going on with Brine in the next maybe 3 or 5 years? And president would be 1 year, clear, but the private way maybe 3 years, something like that. Tell us.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I'll start by saying with the IAHSS, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, the biggest thing that that has happened in the last year is just the international growth that we've had. Like I was sorry, I can't say the biggest thing, but one of the big things, one of the impactful things, is just being able to meet people in Kenya. Again, we're part of. We've been fortunate enough to get to be a part of a monthly meeting with the group in Kenya. So again, 5 o'clock, 5 a.m. our time when they have the meetings, but there's always a good contingent of us from North America who join that call, and again, just learning from each other. It's a great experience. So really kind of leveraging that and taking that to the next level. So really looking at how we can grow internationally, and really just continuing to facilitate that. That's the big thing for me. And one of the things that we've actually discussed is in the future, we hope to see an international member of the board. Mm-hmm. So however that's going to look, again, I think it's something that we'll see in the next few years, but really just looking at how we can grow the association internationally, and doing that successfully, because we've had those situations. Like, again, you've been a member, we've had people from other parts of the world be a member, but the big challenge in the past has been there's just not a lot of traction. There's not a lot of other members. So usually we have an international member who's like the only member in their country, or in some cases the only member in their continent. So they're still kind of siloed. They have access to the group, especially before the digital age, where we could email each other and we could make phone calls, but it wasn't as engaging. So I think we have a great opportunity there that we really need to take advantage of, and really just grow our presence and our influence in healthcare facilities, and help as many people as we can. That's the biggest thing for me. And then for myself, it's hard to say, because a lot of what I'm doing right now are things that I did not plan to do 3 to 5 years ago. Like having a podcast, for example, or having 3 in that sense. Even teaching wasn't something that I planned to get into. Working for the company I'm working for wasn't something I planned to get into. But I guess continuing, if I look at personally, I do want to continue to get involved with investment properties, and just being able to just have options, because you have access to more resources, really, because then you're not really limited in. You have less limitations, I'll say, in terms of what you can and can't do. But just growing where I am, I really love what I'm doing now. So just continuing to grow in this role, or continuing to grow in this company, and with Omnigo that I'm working with now. It's interesting because it's only been a little bit more than a year in what I'm doing, and I've been able to get a promotion in that time, which is nice. But again, I'm right now, for me, it's just learning as much as I can, and seeing how we can impact our product. So it's going to have for the facilities who use us, whether it's healthcare or other, how we can best meet their needs. Again, benchmarking and analytics is a big piece right now. So being able to help people with that, but also just being able to accurately record information and being able to find that information when they need to. So those are great. Again, this is not really a specific answer, but just growing in what I'm doing and just continuing to learn.
That's an answer that's enough, because you are in the flow. You are in the flow, you are in the right place, in the right moment, with the right empathy and passion to do your job, to do your work, and that's absolutely okay. And why we should do, or why we ask, what are you doing in the next 3 years? Because there are some people, they are on different milestones on the road. Maybe they are just a few years in the same function, and they say, okay, well, I'm looking for that. Or they covered a new discovered and covered a new part of themselves and get a new hobby or a new interest in something, or
Yeah.
just they start in a new position like you in 1 year before, and that's absolutely okay to get that, because you have to look for your agenda. Where's your family time?
Mhm.
And where's your hobbies? And where's your IH IAHSS presidential time, and there's other
Right.
parts that you have to handle, and your 3 podcasts, and I'm absolutely fascinated. But you are this guy that handles and manages yourself and your agenda. I guess you do that yourself. You do that for yourself, and or it's just your wife that handle your agenda. Tell us this.
No,
It's your
we
wife that just like you say, honey, please put something tomorrow in my agenda. Or
no,
are
you know,
your
if
own and you're responsible for your own agenda? Tell us that for the end.
I'm responsible for my own agenda, but what
Okay.
we actually do, like if my wife has something that she's doing and it's going to impact me, I just say put it in the calendar, because
Okay.
I'm not going to remember. But she says, okay, I'm going out with my friends on Friday. We're having a get together at somebody's house, with the like, as limited as we can do that right now. Like, okay, well,
Oh,
put it in the calendar because I'm not going to remember, and I may plan something. So, that's what we've kind of been doing. We've decided on, but again, we have a lot of opportunity to communicate about those things, because again, we host a podcast together, so we're always comparing calendars, and we always make sure that things get on there. But no, I do have to, for the most part, I do have to organize myself, and then she helps when is necessary.
absolutely, absolutely great. Tell us. We have 2 questions in the end normally, and
For
one
sure.
is to say that one point it's not in your agenda normally. That's the day if you're go off. You leave the Earth, the planet, you live your life here. And what do you guess? What would people or folks around you tell us about Brine? What's
Hmm.
characteristic, personality? What's really Brine Hamilton? A few keywords or a few sentences. How they will see you, what they talk about you if you are passed away today.
Well, I'll keep it really simple and say I would hope that people would think, number one, that I was a good, dedicated family man, good husband and father, and someone who cared about people and loved to laugh and loved to make other people laugh. I,
Great.
I keep it really simple there.
Simple. It's the most time the right way to do things. The simple way, the simple way of life, something like that. Huh?
Agreed.
Okay, but this was really a really good and absolutely famous podcast episode, an interview, a speech, talk, whatever with you, Brian.
Thank you.
And we spent a few minutes with our with with other people around the globe, I guess. If your organization, other organizations, safety, healthcare, security, environment, doesn't matter. Leaders, managers, or fellows, but how they can get in touch with you, how they can get connected with you. Because we are talking today, or we had talked about networking, get connected, get organized in a global, international way, out, abroad, Canada and US. How they
Yeah.
get in touch, connected with you. Where's
Yeah. So
the plane? Where should the plane land? Can you say some
so
email or websites or online platforms?
yeah, sure. So I'd say the easiest way, the easiest way is on LinkedIn, and
Okay.
it's Brine. So my first name, Brine. I'm the only Brine that I found on there. So Brine Hamilton. If you look me up on LinkedIn, also I'm on Twitter at Brine Hamilton, Facebook, again, just my name. So, you're probably getting the trend here. You could just Google my name, brinehamilton.com, Brine at brinehamilton.com if you want to email me. But yeah, those are the best ways generally to get in touch with me. But
Okay.
LinkedIn is going to be number one.
We put that in the show notes as well. And for everybody who's showing or listening today and this episode, don't be surprised on the picture of Brine. There is no blue eye on the left side. That's passed away. So it's long time away. It's all fine. It's all fine. Okay. The end shows up of this podcast and this interview, and I don't talk about, or I will not talk about anything else after you finish the sentence, that I begin a few words and you just go ahead and say what you have to say in a short way and give that our audience with for the next few months, years, whatever, for their life in a private or a professional way. I will thank you at this moment for your time, Brine. It was absolutely great to see you, to hear you, to laugh with you, to think about a lot of things. And I wish you for the 2022, for your presential year of this famous organization with 5 letters. And just let us finish this sentence. The time, the life is too short to
not enjoy.
Great. Absolutely. So that was for today. I guess an hour, something like a little more than an hour. And it was surprised me from it to get a new way, a new point of view, things that I get from you, Brine. And I hope you will join as well. And I give you this great over the sea to Canada. And I hope I will see you and hear you in 2022. And haven't say anything more. Just goodbye, see you, and hear you all in the next episode, whatever, maybe in German or in English. I know I have to train. Bye-bye, see you, and have a good time, Brine.
Thank you. Take care.